not autonomous in their own spheres. Ellen had agency for days with the Roadhouse, and then of course the show burned it down. If she does come back, and I really hope she does, I'm a big Ellen fan, it will be interesting to see what she has made of herself and whether she has gained herself some agency, again, in absence of the Roadhouse. So the good points about the show, in many ways it has commendably steered clear of a lot of misogynist tropes. The die, woman, die trope being among the common ones that is so popular in the shock and horror genre. And I brought in some articles which I can pass around afterwards. There's a really good one on a press conference that was actually held at the beginning of the season in 2005 called Female Characters Made to Suffer for Our Art. And it's all about the die, woman, die torture genre. Supernatural lovingly skewers men and women with pretty much equal frequency. So the torture porn is kept to a minimum. It also steers clear of treating the female guest stars as sexual prizes to be won by rescue, which is another sort of misogynist trope that happens a lot in the action genre. And as much as Dean may suggest to Sam that he take advantage of their gratitude to win sexual favors, the only time Sam ever gave in to Dean's urging was Madison in Heart. But that episode was very careful to set up that Madison was attracted to Sam before she even knew she needed rescuing, so it was a whole other issue. Unfortunately, there is a much greater sexualization of the female villains, which is a very common trope on television, especially the demons than their male counterparts. The Crossroads demon, Meg, Ruby, all the female demons, Lust being the most obvious example, are intensely sexualized and are then denigrated for their sexuality as well as for their demon-ness. Contrast this with the treatment given the yellow-eyed demon. He was not sexualized in any way, but also including pride, envy, gluttony, and even Gordon Walker when he became a vampire. Now an evil guy, but still a guy, rather than a sexual object. And I would also personally, this is my own little soapbox, I would like to hear a little female-driven classic rock on the show. The only women's voices that we've heard the soundtrack the entire 3 seasons have been Captain and Tennille, Rosemary Clooney, and Leslie Gore, all sort of ironic counterpoints. Where is the heart? Joan Jett, Pat Benatar, Janis Joplin, etc., etc., etc. Women can rock too. So, my big bugaboo, and actually that relates to this fandom way, is where the show most notably fails, is in its unrelenting use of hate speech against women. You've heard of hate crimes. Hate speech is the verbal equivalent. Hate speech, here are the official sort of Wikipedia and US Supreme Court definition is speech intended to degrade, intimidate, or incite violence or prejudicial action against a person or group of people based on their race, gender, age, ethnicity, nationality, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, disability, language ability, moral or political views, socioeconomic class, occupation or appearance, mental capacity, and basically anything that distinguishes a group of people as a group of people. So the term covers written as well as oral communication and all forms of behavior in a public setting. It is also sometimes called anti-locution, and is the first point on all courts scale which measures prejudice in society. So these are further definitions broken down into classes of hate speech, and it's from the 2007 Primetime Misogyny in Media Survey, which is really an interesting read, and I've got it up here if you guys want to take a closer look at it a little bit later. The interesting thing about hate speech, too, is that this survey was done in 2000 and again in 2007, and the increase in hate speech in general on the 5 major networks was threefold, 218%. So hate speech is up like crazy all across primetime television. It's kind of an interesting trend. So the one time that I got to hear Joss Whedon speak in person, and we spoke a little bit last night about Eric Kripke versus Joss Whedon. He came on stage toting a pink vinyl backpack. Near the end of the Q&A session, One guy in the audience asked him, "Hey Joss, what's up with the girly backpack?" Without missing a beat, Joss shot back, "Are you saying there's something wrong with being a girl?" In the world of Supernatural, there is most definitely something wrong with being a girl. In fact, it seems to be the thing to be most avoided at all costs. And calling someone a girl is the most popular insult going. Dean, although by far not the only one on the show, is the prime perpetrator of hate speech towards women. With one exception, his hate speech is always directed against being female. The exception that I found is Dean's derogatory comment to Sam about being gay in bedtime stories, which apparently generated some anger as well. But I would argue that this comment is also a misogynistic comment, because what he's saying to Sam is gay men do girly things, like read fairy tales, so once again he is criticizing him, not for his sexual preferences, but for behaving like a girl. This hate speech has been present since the beginning of the speech, of the series, and the beginning of the speech here. With the no chick flick moments comment, Dean immediately sets up the paradigm that he is the heterosexual alpha male, and therefore avoids anything and everything that would even hint of being girly. He drives a muscle car, he listens to cock rock, he treats women in bars as conquests, and he relentlessly criticizes Sam's emo ways. However, the first 2 seasons, Sam stood in silent counterpoint to that. Never finding it necessary to assert his masculinity, he is nonetheless a match for his brother, and a compliment. He was the expression of a more well-balanced man, one who was not afraid to show feminine characteristics, such as being emotionally involved with the situations and people with which the brothers came in contact, wanting to discuss not only situations but emotions when they affected their own and others' behaviors. Although I really personally would have liked Sam to have verbally rebutted Dean's constant verbal denigration of all things female, and he did come really close in Playthings when he calls Dean on being overly butch, as if he's compensating for something. But at least his actions continually spoke of his resistance to the philosophy that anything resembling girly behavior should be denigrated and seen as less than. Then season 3 came along, and with it Sam's determination to become more like his brother. This was coupled with an increase in the intensity of Dean's gendered hate speech. I lost count of the number of times that Dean called females, usually female demons, bitches. And he added skank, whore, slut, and a bevy of other gendered name-calling to his arsenal. The 2 recurring female leads, Ruby and Bella, were both treated with intense contempt. Now, whether or not they deserved that is up to the individual viewer. But there were also very few strong female leads to provide a kind of counterpoint to all of the female bashing. And no one at any time called Dean on his actions or his hate speech. Because, and this is where it gets sticky in terms of the larger community, not just fandom. Because Dean is one of the 2 leads of the show, what he says and how he acts carries the plot and action forward. And without any dissenting opinion on his behavior and what he says, that then becomes the voice of the show. So what consumers were taking away from this show in the 3rd season was what would make Joss weep and makes me extremely sad and frustrated, that there is something very wrong with being a girl. Even Sam is eventually brought into line with this when, in the final episode of the season, he too turns to Ruby and calls her deliberately and pointedly a bitch. Art value. Supernatural does go out of its way to provide strong female characters and continue to do so even in the 3rd season. Button Max, thank you. Characters that take on traditionally male attributes. They kick ass and take names, they talk and act tough. However, giving females the attributes of males is only half of the equation and does not counteract the misogyny of the show if males are not allowed in any way to take on female characteristics. All it does is reinforce, by the behavior of the women, that being a girl is to be avoided at all costs. Being a girl is so bad that not even the women want to do it. The height of this using women to insult women came in Red Sky Morning, the episode that shall not be mentioned, when the character of Bella, newly introduced and trying to win viewers over, comments to Dean that he should stop being a girl. as if to say, see, she's cool because she also insults and denigrates women just like Dean. Don't you love